Simon says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
We've made the accompanying exercise files for this tutorial available for free. Just click the link below in the video details to get these.
Microsoft Teams is a collaboration platform developed by Microsoft. It provides a centralized hub for teamwork, allowing users to chat, make audio and video calls, share files, and collaborate on various projects and tasks. Teams is designed to facilitate communication and collaboration within organizations, whether those are small businesses, educational institutions, or large enterprises. So what are some of the key features of Microsoft Teams? Well, the first one is chat. Users can have one-on-one or group chats with colleagues, share files, and use emojis, stickers, and GIFs to express themselves. Meetings. Teams offers audio and video conferencing capabilities, allowing users to schedule and join meetings with colleagues or external participants. It supports screen sharing, virtual backgrounds, and recording options. Channels. Teams organizes conversations and files into channels, which can be dedicated to specific projects, departments, or topics. Channels provide a structured way to collaborate and keep discussions organized. Integration with Microsoft 365. Teams integrates with other Microsoft Office applications such as Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, enabling users to create, edit, and share files within the platform. Multiple team members can collaborate simultaneously on documents. Teams seamlessly integrates with other Microsoft 365 services like SharePoint, OneDrive, and Outlook. This integration allows for easy access to files, calendars, and other resources within the Teams interface. App ecosystem. Microsoft Teams supports a wide range of third-party integrations and apps, allowing users to enhance their experience and connect with other tools they use in their workflows. Microsoft Teams is available as a desktop application for Windows users and Mac users. It also has a web-based version accessible through browsers and mobile apps for iOS and Android devices. It's gained significant popularity, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, as remote work and virtual collaboration have become increasingly prevalent. And throughout this section, we're going to do a deep dive into some of the key features of Teams so you can start using it and collaborating with colleagues. So let's open up Microsoft Teams from the portal and take a look at some of the basics and explore the interface. So we're going to jump up to our app launcher, and you should find in here Microsoft Teams. Now it's worth noting that we're accessing Teams through the web browser. You can also download the desktop application and access Teams that way. The interface is exactly the same. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you go into Teams is that the main action takes place in this left-hand menu that we have running vertically down the left-hand side. So these are all of the different parts of Teams. Now, the one highlighted in purple is the one that you're currently clicked on. And by default, mine has selected Teams. So when we're clicked on Teams, we can basically see a big long list of all of the teams that we have access to. For example, sales and marketing is a team. Mark 8 project team is a team. US sales is a team. Now, these little folders, I guess you could call them, that you see underneath them, we actually refer to these as team channels. And channels are there to really direct specific conversations. So within the sales and marketing team, we have a channel specifically for the marketing team. So this is where all of the marketing type posts, messages, and files would be shared. We have another channel for monthly reports. So that is where all discussion related to that topic takes place. And you can have as many channels as you like under here to really get very specific about certain topics within a team. Now, one thing you will notice is that every team that's created has a general channel by default. So this is where all general conversations will take place. And if I click on, let's go down to one of my teams down here. Let's go to Project Alpha General. You can see we've got a conversation going on in here. And that brings me on to my next point. If you take a look in the general channel, and this is the same for every channel that we have, you can see at the top here we have different tabs essentially. Now, this channel is fairly customized. So if we go back to, let's go back to the sales and marketing general channel. This is kind of what you'll see when you first create a new channel. You'll just have two tabs at the top for posts and files. Now in the posts section, this is where all conversation takes place. So if you want to have a chat with your team members, this is where you would do it. And you can see right at the bottom, we have a new conversation button. The files tab is where we can see any files that have been shared within this team channel. So it just gives us easy access to things that we're currently working on. And then next to that, we have a plus symbol, which is going to allow us to add our own tabs. And we can connect to all different kinds of applications from here. And of course, we are going to go into this in more detail a bit later on in this section. But for the time being, the main takeaway here is that we have teams and channels, and then within each of the channels, we have different tabs running across the top. Another thing you'll also notice is that next to each team and each channel, if you hover your mouse over it, you get three dots at the side here. And if you click this, it's going to open up a little contextual menu that just gives you more options for executing actions and managing your teams and your channels. So just be aware that that's there as well, because we're going to be diving in and out of this as we go through this section. So that's really what you see when you click on Teams. The icon just above for chat, this is where we go to have private chats with people. So it might be that you don't necessarily want to message everybody within a Teams channel. You might just want to have a private conversation with one member from that channel. So this is where you can go to have private chats. The activity option just here is basically a feed. So what you're going to see in here are all of the updates that are going on across your teams. This is particularly useful if you have people mentioning you, because you can come here and you can see immediately who's mentioned you and which team and channel you need to go to in order to reply to that mention. Underneath that, we have a files area. Again, this is just going to take us to the Teams files library. And this is going to show us all of the files that have been shared within the teams we have access to. But it also allows us to filter by different file types as well. So if I just want to see all the Word files, I can do that. And I can also upload documents from my PC straight into this file library, and I can create brand new documents, workbooks, and presentations by clicking the new drop down. Again, we're going to discuss all of this in much more detail a bit later on. We then have access to a Teams calendar. So this is great if you want to have a shared calendar with your team. And then underneath that, I have something called Tasks by Planner. And this again is another application that I've added in to keep track of all of my team tasks. And this can be added using the button at the bottom, the Apps button just here. If we click Apps, it gives us access to all of the third-party apps that we can add to Teams to extend our experience and make it more functional. So lots of different things going on in here. The final thing to mention is right at the top, we have a search bar. So this is a universal search that allows you to search for all manner of things across your different teams. And there's a few little tricks and keyboard shortcuts that we can use up here, which makes finding things a lot simpler. Again, we'll cover this in more detail a bit later on. So that is a quick overview of the Teams interface, teams and channels, and what all of the buttons do in that left-hand menu. Now that we've got that down, it's time to move on to the next lesson. There are two types of teams that you can create in Microsoft Teams. You can create a public team or you can create a private team. Now, the only difference between the two is that if you create a private team, then as the owner of that team, you need to invite people to the team in order for them to join. Also, with private teams, they are not discoverable. Whereas with a public team, that team is available for anybody within the organization to simply join without any approval. So we're going to take a look at an example of both. Now, currently I'm clicked on, let's click on Teams. We can see all of our teams listed on the left-hand side. And then right at the bottom, we have a join or create a team link. So let's click on this. It's going to take us through to this page just here where we have two options. Now, the option on the right, join a team with a code, we're going to cover this a bit later on. But what we want to focus on here is how to create a team. So let's click the Create Team button, and we then get a few different choices as to how we want to create this team. So we can create a basic team from scratch, and this really just gives us the team structure. And when we create from scratch, it means that we have to add all of the members to the team ourselves. The other option that we have up here is to create a team based off of an existing Microsoft Teams team or an existing Microsoft 365 group. So if you already have a group set up in Outlook with, let's say, 10 members, you could save yourself a bit of time by creating a team based on that group, and it will bring all of those members across. And then the third option we have is to create a team based off of a template. And if we scroll through, you can see that we have all different templates just here. Now, these templates sort of really define the types of channels that you're going to get. They're going to be related to the subject matter of the actual team. So I'll leave it up to you to determine which one is best going to suit you. But let's take a look at a couple of examples here. Let's first of all create a team based off a Microsoft 365 group. So I'm going to click from a group or team. We're going to choose Microsoft 365 group, and you can see there it's showing me the groups that I have set up in Outlook. So I'm going to choose Project Bravo. Let's click on Create. And that is pretty much as simple as it gets. You can see now, if we take a look down in the Teams list, there is Project Bravo at the bottom, and we have our default general channels, so we can start having conversations with team members. Now, if we click on the three dots next to Project Bravo and go into Manage Team, what you'll see in there are all of the members and guests and owners of the Project Bravo Microsoft 365 group. So I'm the owner, and then we have these four members just here. And of course, if you want to make somebody a co-owner, you can simply bump up their access to owner to move them up to the top half of the screen. So creating a team in this way does save you a little bit of time if you already have a Microsoft 365 group set up and you just want to copy across the settings and the members. Let's take a look at another way you can create a team. Let's go back into Join or Create a Team and create a team again. This time we're going to create one from scratch. And this is where we get to choose private or a public team or an organization-wide team. I think I forgot to mention that one at the beginning. The difference between these, as I said, a private group, people need permission to join. A public group, anyone in your organization can join by clicking the join button, or an organization-wide group means that everybody is automatically part of that team. So as soon as you create it, everybody's going to see it in their teams list within your organization. With a public team, they need to actually physically click the join button, and with a private team, they need to receive an invite. So let's create a public team from scratch. We need to give our team a name. We'll call this Social Committee. Again, you can add a description just to save a bit of time. I'm not going to. Let's click on Create. So it's going to go away. It's going to create the team. And now it's going to ask us who we want to add to this team. So once again, you can start typing in the name of somebody from your organization. So let's just add Grady. Let's add Lee. Let's add Pradeep. Let's add Linda, and let's add one more person. Let's go for Joni and click on the Add button to add those members. Now at this stage, you can choose to make any of these people an owner and bump up their access a little. I'm going to leave them all on members. Let's click on Close. So there we go. Now you can see at the bottom, we have Social Committee team, and again we have a general channel so we can start having conversations. And the final way to create a team, again let's go back into create a team, is to use a template. So I'm going to choose this one here, onboard employees. Let's click this template, and you can see the channels that it's going to give me as part of this template. So we're going to have general, announcements, employee chat, and training. And it's also going to add 9 applications for me. So let's click on Next. I'm going to make this one a public team as well. And now we can give our team a name. So I'm just going to call it Employee Onboarding. If we expand Customize Channels, we can go in and we can rename these channels if we want to. So you're not stuck with those defaults. You can rename them from here. Now I'm going to leave them as they are. Let's click on Create. It's going to go away and create the team. And remember, we're creating a public team again. Now, when you're using a template like this, it will take a bit longer to create the team simply because it's adding in lots of things like connectors to other applications. It's creating all of the channels. So you can close this window and just carry on working, and then you'll be informed when that team has been created. So let's close this down. So I can see at the bottom here, employee onboarding has been created. If I expand this, currently I just have the general channel, so it's still refreshing at the moment. So we need to be a little bit more patient. So while we're waiting for those to pull through, let's go back into join or create a team, because check out what we have. We have something different on here. You can see that now I have a team just here called Music and Movie Recommendations. And this is a public team that's been created by somebody else within my organization. So this is what you'll see when somebody creates a public team. You will see it appear in this window just here. So if I decide that yes, I want to be part of this team, all I need to do is hover over and click Join Team. I've now joined that team, and if I take a look in my teams list, I can see there is the team at the bottom for music and movie recommendations. So that's how you can join a public team, but joining a private team is slightly different. With a private team, you need to be invited to join by the team owner. So you can see here, I'm just getting a pop-up from Adele, who's inviting me to the brainstorming team. Now, aside from the pop-up in the corner, notice in the activity area, I now have an alert, a notification. If I click on this, it says Adele added you to the brainstorming team. So now when I go to my teams and scroll to the bottom, there we go, I have access to that team. Now, the other way you can join a team is by simply using a code. Now, a code is something that can be given to you by the team owner. And if I just show you an example of this on one of my teams, for example, let's go for Project Bravo. If we click the three dots and go into Manage Team, underneath the Settings tab, we have a team code area. And what we can do here is generate a unique team code, which we can then share with others to allow them to join the team. So I could copy this code, paste it into a channel or an email, and then those people can simply go to join or create a team and type the code in here in order to join the team. So a few different methods there when it comes to creating teams and also joining public and private teams. Posting and receiving messages in Teams is a super simple task. As we already know, we can see all of the teams that we have access to in this pane on the left-hand side. And then when we expand a team, for example, Project Bravo, you can see that we have all of the team channels. Now, currently, underneath Project Bravo, I just have the default channel, the general channel. Remember, there will always be a general channel created by default when you create a new team. And this is one of the channels that we can have conversations in. Now, of course, we can create our own channels, and we are going to take a look at that a bit later on in this section. But for the time being, let's just check out the options that we have when it comes to posting and receiving messages. So I'm clicked in the general channel. And the first thing you'll notice is that right at the top where we have the channel name, we also have a posts tab just here. So this is where you can chat with your colleagues, you can send messages through, you can attach files, you can post images, GIFs, stickers, emojis, and all of those kinds of fun things. So to start a new conversation, we go all the way down to the bottom of the screen and click the New Conversation button. Now this is going to pop open a little conversation field with some icons underneath. So I'm going to type my first message. Hello everyone, what do you think of this new channel? Now to send a message through, you have two options. You can either hit the enter key on the keyboard, or you can click on the little paper plane icon all the way over on the right hand side. As soon as you click that, it's going to post the message to the channel. And then your colleagues can come in, they can reply, or they can post their own messages. Now, when you do receive a message, you can see there I've received a reply from Adele. Notice that I have a little pop-up notification in the bottom right-hand corner. And also notice that when we're working with conversations in Teams, we have this kind of threaded conversation layout. So you can see very easily who's replying to what. So now if I want to reply to Adele, I'm basically clicked in the correct field. I'm just going to type in, "You're welcome." Now, if I wanted to add a little bit of personality to this message, I have some options underneath. For example, I could add an emoji. So if I click the emoji button, I get a whole list of different smileys and other things that I can add. So let's send Adele a heart. I could, if I wanted to, also add a GIF. So if we click to open this up, we have a whole host of little GIFs that we can add just to make your conversations a little bit more fun. And the final option we have here for giving our messages a bit of personality is the stickers option. So again, these are divided down into different categories, and these are just really fun little things that you can send through. Now I'm just going to leave it with the emoji. Let's click on the send button, and that's going to be sent through to Adele. So right now Adele is going to get a pop-up notification in her Teams that I've responded to her message. Now you can see here that Adele has just sent through another brand new message. So she hasn't responded to the previous conversation thread, she started a whole new post. Now also notice when I hover over Adele's message, I get this little toolbar that pops up where I can add a reaction to her post. So if I like this post, I can simply give it a little like by clicking on the thumbs up icon. So let's reply to Adele again, but this time I'm going to click on the format message button underneath. So let's click, and what you'll notice is that it opens up a bigger reply window. And in this window, we have all of our formatting options. So if you want to add a bit of formatting to your message, as opposed to just having it all in the same font and the same style, then just click on that format button. So I'm going to say, not yet, I'm still waiting. So what I could do here is I could maybe make this bold, I could change the color of the font, I can even do things like add bullet points in, we can add quotes, we can add tables, all of that kind of good stuff. And at any point when I'm composing a message, if I decide that I no longer want to send this, I have a trash can icon all the way over on the right hand side, which will allow me to effectively delete this draft. Now, I'm not going to delete it, I'm going to send that through. And also don't forget that you can share files in here as well. So if I start another new conversation, notice I have a paperclip icon just here. So if I click this, I get a few different options. I can browse my recent files. I can browse other teams and channels for files that have been shared there. I can go directly to OneDrive, or I can upload a file from my computer. So if we go to OneDrive, let's just go to the training files folder, and I'm going to send through training document. So let's click it. Notice I get two options. I can upload a copy, or I can share a link. So I'm going to upload a copy. It's going to load that into the message, and then I can send through as I normally would. So anybody in this channel can then open this document. And it's also worth noting that when you do share documents in this posts area, they do upload, and they're then available in the Files tab at the top. So if you quickly need to see all of the files that you shared within this channel, you can just go to Files and you'll find all of them sitting there. It just means you don't have to scroll up and down a conversation looking for your files. We can also use at mentions in our conversations. So let's go up here. I'm going to reply to this post again, and maybe I want to bring Alex into the conversation. So I can just type at, and then I can either select from the list or just start to type his name, and then I can choose. Now remember, with these at mentions, you don't necessarily have to have the full name just there. Sometimes that sounds a little bit formal. So once you've added them in, you can backspace to remove that last name so it just says Alex. So I'm just going to say, what do you think? Hit enter to send that through. And that's pretty much all there is to posting and receiving messages. I'm sure if you've used any applications like this previously, you're not going to find this too hard to grasp. That's it for this lesson. I will see you in the next one. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at bookmarking, editing, and deleting posts. Now, bookmarking is a great way to be able to essentially flag messages that you might want to come back to later on. It's kind of similar to bookmarking a website that you're interested in reading. Now, the way that we bookmark posts in Teams is not immediately obvious. So let's go to a different channel that has a little bit more in it. Let's go to the Project 8 Mark team and the Design channel. If I scroll up, maybe I want to bookmark this message just here from Miriam. So what I can do is hover my mouse over this message, and where we have all of our reaction icons, notice that next to that we have 3 dots for more options. So if we click more options, we have an item in this menu called Save This Message. So it's not called Bookmark, but Bookmark kind of accurately describes what you're doing. So let's click on Save This Message. we get a notification that it's been saved. And then when we want to access all of our saved messages, we need to go all the way up to where we have our profile picture, click on it, and there we have our saved option. So if I click on saved, this is going to show me a big long list of all of those messages that I've bookmarked. And of course, if you want to unsave a message, you can just click on the little saved icon just here, and that will remove it from your saved items list. So really quick and really simple. Now let's go back to our Project Bravo general channel and talk about how we can edit messages. So maybe this message here where I say not yet, I'm still waiting, maybe I actually do have the start date of this project, so I want to edit this message. So again, this is a simple case of hovering over the message that you want to edit, and it is worth noting you can only edit your own messages. Once again, we go back to the three dots and we have an edit option in this menu. So if I click this, it puts me in edit mode and I can make my changes. Click on the tick to send that through. And of course, Adele is going to get a notification that this message has been updated, so she knows to go back in and check it. And then finally, let's talk about how we can delete messages. As you would imagine, this is pretty standard and straightforward too. So let's say that I want to delete this message here where I've sent through the training document file. Once again, hover over the message, go to the three dots, and in there we have a delete option. So let's click on delete. And there we go. We get a little message that says this message has been deleted. Now note that you're the only one that can see this message, so everybody else in the channel is not going to know that you've deleted this post. If you decide that you want to undo that and put the message back, we have an undo button just there, which will pull that message back into the conversation. So super simple to save messages, edit messages, and also delete messages. So far in this section, we've predominantly been looking at messages that we're sharing with all of our team members. So the people that can see all of these messages are all of the people that have access to this channel, all the people that are members of this channel. Now, sometimes you might not want to post a message to the entire group. You might just want to post a message or have a conversation with a specific team colleague. And this is what we refer to as private messaging. So maybe my colleague Adele was off work yesterday, and I just want to have a quick conversation with her to make sure that she's okay. So this isn't a conversation that's really appropriate for everybody in the team. It's just something that needs to occur privately between us. So private messages, we don't type those into the team channel. For this, we go to the chat area of Teams. So if we take a look at the left-hand menu, you can see the first option we have is chat, and this is where all of your private messages occur. So in this window, you can see a list of the recent conversations that you've had with people. So you can carry on typing in those, or you can create a new chat at the top. So if I click on new chat, I then get to enter who I'm sending this private message to. So once again, you can type in the name, or you can select from the list if they're within your organization. Now you can have a private chat with more than one person. It's not just a one-to-one thing. I could add in Alex and Diego or whoever I want, but I just want to message Adele. Now, because I've already had private messages with Adele before, as soon as it recognizes that I've put Adele in that to field, it's basically going to jump me to the last conversation we have. So we're not sort of clogging up our recent area with brand new chats with the same person. So now I can simply type in my message. So that's my message. I'm just going to click on the send icon to send that through. And obviously Adele is the only one who's going to see that. And you can see there that Adele has replied to my message. Now, one other thing to note when you're working within private chats is that we also have different tabs running across the top. Now, some of these I've already customized, but you'll always have chat and you'll always have files. So if I go to an older private conversation, so a conversation I was having with a few people, this is kind of the default that you'll see. You'll have a chat tab and you'll also have a files tab. So this works very similar to when you're having conversations in a Teams channel. It's going to show any files that have been shared within this private chat. So just be aware of that. Now, of course, we can add other tabs across the top, which is why you can see more in this conversation with Adele. I've already put some customizations in here. And of course, we are going to look at this a little bit later on in the course. It's also worth noting if at this stage I decided that I wanted to maybe jump into a video call with Adele and have a conversation with her, in the top right hand corner, we have icons that allow us to do exactly that. So I can choose to start a video call with Adele, or I can start an audio call. And we're going to be taking a look at video and audio calls in a couple of lessons time. But that's pretty much how private chat works. The only other thing to really mention here is that we do have a little filter at the top. So if I click on the filter, I can filter by name. So if I'm just looking for conversations that I've had with Diego, I can type his name in and it's going to show me all of the conversations that he's been a part of. So don't forget about that at the top here. Now, the very final point to mention here, I keep remembering more things, is that if we hover our mouse over any private conversation, again, we have those three dots, which take us into more options. So we have a few different things we can do here. I could pin this conversation to the top. So that's useful if you have private conversations with the same person fairly often. You can pin them at the top there to make them easier to access. We can mark this conversation as unread, and you'll see what happens as soon as I do that. It puts this conversation into a bold font as if I haven't read it yet. And you can also see that on the chat icon in that left-hand menu, I now get this little notification letting me know that I have an unread conversation. I can also do things like completely mute the chat. Maybe I'm trying to do some focused work. I can mute the conversation. This is also a really good option, notify when available. What you'll notice is that when you're working in Teams, if you take a look at my profile photo at the top here, notice I have a green tick. That basically means that I'm available, and you can see that underneath my username. At any point in time, I can change my availability status. Now, sometimes these will be changed automatically depending on what activity you have going on in your calendar. For example, if Teams recognizes that you've got a meeting scheduled, it will automatically set you to busy. But you can also manually change your status. So if I set my status to be right back, you can see that that changes the icon just there. And if I know that I'm going to be away for, let's say, an hour, I could even specify the duration that I want this status to be applied. For example, I could select 1 hour from the list here and click on done, and then my status is going to be right back for the next hour, and then it will automatically revert back to available. Now, let's say, for example, Adele had done this on hers, and maybe I have something really important that I need to talk to her about. This is where the notify when available option can be really useful. If I set this on this private conversation with Adele, as soon as her status comes back to available, I'm going to get a notification and I can then start my chat with her. So a few really useful options when you're working in private chat. It's important to know some of the options that you have when it comes to managing teams and channels within Microsoft Teams. For example, we're currently clicked on the General channel in Project Bravo. Now, by this point, we should be getting used to the fact that when we see 3 dots, that means we have a menu that's going to show us some more options. So if I click the 3 dots just here, you can see I have numerous different items that will help me manage this team. So let's jump into the first one, Manage Team. Now in here we have a few different tabs running across the top. The first tab we have is the Members tab. So if you ever need to see who exactly is a member of this particular team, this is where you can come. And it helpfully divides it down into owners and members and guests. So you can see here that this team has 2 owners, myself and Adele, and then we have 3 members, Alex, Megan and Lynn. We've already seen how we can promote or demote these people. So if I want to demote Adele back down to member status, I can simply do that in the role column. We have a search bar at the top. If we have a lot of members, we can search for specific members. And if we hover our mouse over any of the members of this team, we get a little pop-up window with a preview, and we have various different actions we can take. So from here, I can start a chat with Adele. I can start a video call maybe. I can also send her a quick message from here as well. And I have access to all of her contact details. So this can be really handy. Notice we can also add new members using the Add Member link in the top corner just here. Now if we jump across to the Channels tab at the top, this is where we're going to see all of the channels that are part of this team. So you can see currently we only have the general channel. So I can add new channels from here as well. So if we click on the Add Channel button, I can create a brand new channel for this team. So maybe we need a marketing channel. I could add a description, I'm not going to. And then I'm going to keep this on standard access. Everyone on the team has access to this channel. Of course, we can click the drop down and we have a few different options that we can pick in there, but I'm going to just add this in. And there we go. You can see that that has been added. Let's jump back into Manage Team and go to the Settings page. So this is really where you can customize all of the settings for your team. For example, we can change this avatar from just the standard, fairly boring default avatar. We can change this to a different picture. So let's click Change Picture. I'm going to upload a picture and I'm just going to add a picture that I've got saved off. Let's click on Save. We can then also set member permissions. So this is a series of checkboxes that we can toggle off and on that enable or disable certain permissions for this team. For example, you can see here I have all of these toggled on, so members can create and update channels, they can create private channels, they can delete and restore channels, so on and so forth. So have a little look through these because it might be that you don't want members to be able to do certain things. For example, you might not want to allow members to delete and restore channels. So I could deselect this option just here. So definitely have a check and modify where necessary. We also have a section for guest permissions. So what do we want to allow guests to do? We have an app mentions section. So both of these options are selected. And this is an area where we can really define who can use @team and @channel mentions. Because remember, you can @mention other people, but you can also @mention entire teams. So I could type in @project alpha to send a message to all of those team members. And I can always @ a specific channel as well. The team code area we looked at earlier, this is where we have our unique code related to this team that we can send other people, and they can use this code to join the team. This is where you find it, and we have a copy button just here as an easy way to copy it into an email. The fun stuff area is where we have things related to emojis, memes, GIFs, and stickers. So have a little look through there. By default, everything in here is selected. And then the final section at the bottom is related to tags. And we haven't really spoken a great deal about tags in this course. Now we're going to talk a bit more about these in a moment, but just know that in this section you can basically choose who can manage all the tags related to this team. So you can see that currently tags are managed by the team owners for Project Bravo. If we carry on moving across these tabs, we have an Analytics tab if you want to see an overview, some statistics about your team. We have an Apps tab, so this will show you all of the apps that you currently have installed, and then we have a Tags section. Now what we can do in here is we can go to create a tag. Now tags allow us to quickly reach a group of people all at once. For example, if you have numerous people that have the same job title, for example, sales assistant, you could set up a tag for sales assistant and it will effectively group all of those together. So let's create a tag called project leads. You can add a description and then we can add people to this tag. So let's add Lynn and let's add Megan and click on create. Now, once we've created these tags, we can then use them very similar to an app mention in posts. And this is where you can come to manage your tags and create new tags. So those are all the team settings. It's worth noting that we also have channel settings. So if we click the 3 dots next to the marketing channel, we have other options in here as well. For example, we can manage our channels. Now we don't have as many options in here. We can set the permissions. We can set up moderation on channels if we want to. And we also have access to some analytics for the channel. The final point worth mentioning is that you don't necessarily have to go into the Manage Team area in order to create things like new channels. You can simply do that by clicking the 3 dots. And we also have an Add Channel option in here. Sometimes when we create teams, we create them because they're related to a specific project. And at some point in the future, that project will end and we no longer need to be part of this team. So in Teams, we have three options. We can leave a team, we can hide a team, or we can delete a team. And it's worth noting that that final option to delete a team is only available to whoever the team owner is. So members of a team can't delete the team, it can only be deleted by the team owner. Now let's talk about leaving a team first of all. So for this, I'm going to go to a team that I didn't create. So let's go for this music and movie recommendations team. Now, maybe I'm not really interested in having this team in my list and I want to leave the team. This is a simple case of clicking the three dots and we have a leave team option just here. So let's click this. I need to confirm that I want to leave, and it is pretty much as simple as that. And you'll notice that that team gets removed from your team's list. Now, if I decided that I wanted to rejoin that team, if I go back to join or create a team, because this is a public team, I can see it there and I can just click join team if I need to rejoin, and that will put it back into my teams list. So very simple to leave and rejoin teams. The next option we have is hiding a team. So maybe I don't want to leave the team, I don't want to delete it, I just want to hide it from my list because I've got quite a few teams in here and I only really want to show the ones that I use every day. So once again, if we use music and movie recommendations as our example, if we click on the three dots, we have a hide option just here. So when I click on this, it's going to hide that team so it disappears from the list. But you can see right at the bottom, we have a little hidden team section now. So if I expand this out, it's going to show me any of the teams that I've hidden. And if I want to unhide them, again, I can click on the three dots and just choose show to pull that back into the main teams list. The final option that we have is to delete a team. Now, as I mentioned, you can only delete teams that you've created. Now, if we take a look at this team just here where we have brainstorming, this wasn't a team that I created. So when I click on the three dots, notice that I don't have the option to delete the team. However, if I go to a team that I did create, for example, Project Alpha at the top here, I can click on the three dots and I have a delete team option at the bottom. When I click on delete team, it's going to give me this confirmation, and you need to check the checkbox to confirm that you understand that everything is going to be deleted. So check the checkbox, click on delete team, and that is going to remove the team and all of its contents. And it doesn't just delete the team for you, it will delete the team for everybody who has access to that team. So just be aware of that. Sometimes it's more preferable to hide the team if you just want to remove it from your list as opposed to actually deleting it. So those are the three different options that you have, all of them very straightforward. So now that we have a good understanding of how many different elements work in Teams, it's time to turn our attention towards adding tabs at the top and also search. So let's talk about adding new tabs at the top here. So currently I'm clicked on the Project Bravo team, the general channel. And notice that currently I have three tabs: posts, files, and notes. And then next to that I have a little plus. So maybe I want to add a Whiteboard tab to this channel so that people can brainstorm ideas and scribble down notes. I can do that very easy by clicking on the plus. This is going to show me a big long list of all of the different apps, and if I click on see all, I should be able to find Whiteboard in there, and there it is. So let's click to add it. We can give our Whiteboard a name. I'm just going to leave it on Whiteboard, and I'm going to post to the channel about this tab so that everybody knows I've created it. Let's click on save. It's going to create the tab and it's going to load up a blank whiteboard, and now everybody can use this as they would if they were working within the Whiteboard app itself. Notice we have that little floating toolbar at the bottom, so we can add things like notes, text, images, comments, so on and so forth. What about an actual file? Well, if we click the plus again, maybe I want to permanently share as a tab an Excel file. So if I click on the Excel app, I can then go in and search for the Excel file that I want to use in the tab. So let's just go to my files and see what we have in here. And let's just go for product list again. So I'm going to click on product list. Let's click on save. That's going to create a new tab called Product List, and it's going to load up that Excel spreadsheet into that window. So this is a really nice way of keeping all of your files together within the channel so that everybody can easily see them and also collaborate on them as well. So adding apps as tabs is a great way to customize your channels. The final thing to talk about here is the search bar at the top, because there are a couple of little things in here which are really going to make your life a lot easier. Now, we can use this search bar to search for anything within Teams, whether that be a file or a person or a team or a channel. But check this out. If I click in the search box, look at the wording in there. It says look for messages, files and more, or type / for a list of commands. So if we type /, this gives us access to a whole bunch of shortcut links to execute specific tasks. For example, if I wanted to quickly change my status from available to away, I could type / away, or I can simply select it from this drop down. So when I hit enter, you'll notice, check out my profile photo in the corner, my status has now been set to away. If I do the / again, I can set it back to available very quickly. So there's quite a few things we can do in here, and some of them will require your input. For example, if I want to send a quick message to a person, I could type in / chat, and then it's going to ask me which person do I want to send a message to. So I can say Diego, and then I can effectively type the message into the search bar and send it through. And because that message is just to Diego, it's going to show in my private chats over here, and there you can see it, hi Diego. So this / is really, really great. If I want to quickly jump to a specific team or channel, I have a go-to option just here, and then I can select my team or channel. One that I find particularly useful is / saved, because that will give me a quick way to jump to all of those posts that I've bookmarked. Now, aside from /, we can also use an @ symbol in here as well to quickly do other things. For example, obviously I can @ somebody to send them a message. I can select whoever I like, so Grady, then I can type the message, as we've seen already, and send that through. So the @ mention, very straightforward. But we do have other things we can do with this @ symbol as well. For example, if we go down to here, I could send somebody some praise. So if I click @praise, it's basically going to access the Praise app. So maybe I want to tell Adele that she is awesome. I can add a personalized note if I want to, I can change the background color, and I can send that through to Adele. So that's quite a nice way to boost someone's morale and let them know that you think they're doing a great job. Another thing that's quite nice to do is if we type in the @ symbol again, we could search for videos on YouTube and share those as well. So if we select @YouTube, and just bear in mind that if you don't have the YouTube app already installed in Microsoft Teams, it will prompt you to do that. It's a simple case of clicking the add button, and then we can go in and search for the video we want to share. So let's do a Simon Says It. We're going to do an Excel video. Maybe all of my team need to brush up on their Excel skills. So let's choose this video, the Ultimate Excel Tutorial. So I can either open this, I can copy the link and share it to maybe this chat, or I can choose to share in a meeting. So if I want to jump straight into a Teams meeting and share this video, I can do that from here. So I'm just going to click on Join Now, and I can say Start Sharing, and there we go. I'm now sharing that video in my Teams meeting. So some really cool little options there when it comes to working with different applications within Teams and also searching. It's time now to move away from talking about Teams, channels and conversations and move on to talking about initiating video and audio calls, because these days that is one of the primary uses of Microsoft Teams. Particularly since the pandemic, where everybody moved online, Teams is now used heavily for video and audio meetings, sharing files, and collaborating with other people. Now, before we dive into initiating video and audio calls, it's worth checking a few settings for your team meetings before you get started. Now, if you cast your eyes all the way to the top right-hand corner where we have our profile picture, notice we have 3 dots next to the profile. If we click this, we're going to have access to our settings. Now, these settings are settings that apply to every aspect of Teams. And we're not going to go through all of these, we're just going to go through the ones that are relevant to video and audio meetings. But I would highly encourage you to have a little look through all of these settings and modify them accordingly and really customize the way that your Teams is set up so it works best for you. Now let's jump straight down to notifications, because we have a couple of things in here which relate to Teams meetings. So if we scroll down, notice we have a section here called Meetings and Calls. And this is where we can control notifications and reminders during our meetings and calls. So if we click on the Edit button, we can customize our behavior when we join a meeting. For example, if you want all of the participants to have their microphones on mute, you could choose this option. You can unmute them all so they can all have a chat, or you can mute them until you join as the meeting organizer or send a message. And this second option here is the default. So just be aware of that when you're hosting webinars or live events. Let's jump down to accessibility, because we have another option in here that relates specifically to Teams meetings, and that is captions. So you can see here, we have the option always show captions in my meetings. So currently I have this toggled off, but I could toggle this on so that captions automatically pop up on the screen when anyone is talking in the meeting, which is greatly going to help anybody who maybe has some hearing difficulties, or maybe people who don't have English as their first language. Sometimes people find it easier to read words than actually understand different accents and voices. So captions are always a good option, so I'm going to toggle those on. We then have a section for captions and transcripts. We can get Teams to automatically identify us in the meeting captions and transcripts. So what we mean by that is that it will pop up your name in the on-screen captions and also in any transcripts of the meeting. And we also have the profane words filter turned on, which is probably a good idea. So those are a few options that you should check prior to setting up a Teams meeting. Let's close down this window. The final thing I just want to run through in this lesson before we dive into a live meeting is where you can find all of your meeting options. So currently I'm clicked on the general channel in Project Bravo, and maybe I'm having a conversation with different people in here, so Adele and Alex, for example, and maybe we decide that this would better be discussed in a video meeting. Well, we can start a new meeting from within any channel in Teams. Notice in the top right hand corner we have a Meet button just here, and if I click the drop down we can Meet Now or Schedule a Meeting. Now the difference between these two is that if we schedule a meeting, that's a meeting that's going to occur in the future, whereas Meet Now will basically start a meeting immediately. If we jump across to the private chat window, we can also start new meetings from here as well. In the top right hand corner we have a little video call button, or we can start an audio call, and this will start the call immediately. We can also start a meeting from our Teams calendar. So if we click on Calendar just here, notice that in the top right hand corner we have a Meet Now button, or we can choose to schedule a meeting underneath here. So 3 different areas there where we can basically create or start a new Teams meeting. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in the next lesson, so join me over there. So let's take a look at how we can initiate a video or audio call on demand. And we're going to start by initiating an on-demand meeting from within a Teams channel. So once again, I'm within the Project Bravo team. I'm currently clicked on the General tab, and I'm having a conversation with Adele and Alex. And we decide that we want to jump into a meeting to discuss this in more detail. So if we go up to the top right hand corner, you can see that we have a Meet button just here, and we have 2 options, Schedule a Meeting and Meet Now. Now, Meet Now is going to jump us directly into a meeting, and it will take us to the video settings page. So this is where we can set a name for our meeting. We can specify if we want to have our camera turned off or on. We can add a background filter, and we can set up our audio. So I'm just going to type in here, let's call this team meeting. Currently I have my camera turned off. I could turn it on if I want to. I don't actually have a webcam hooked up right now, so you're not going to see anything. But once we turn on our camera, that will give us access to any background filters that we want to apply. And if we open up those, these are just really helpful for disguising your background. So if you are working from home and maybe your office is a little bit untidy and you don't want people to see that, you could add one of these background images, or you can use your own image. Alternatively, there is a blur option which will just blur out the background as opposed to adding a picture. So these can be really useful to help with privacy. Now I'm just going to turn my camera off. We have a little cog icon just here. So this is where we can set up all of our device settings if we need to. So just go through and check to make sure that your audio, your speakers and your microphone are set to your correct defaults. And this will differ depending on what your setup is like. You can see that I'm using a Yeti stereo microphone, and that's the default for microphone use, but my speaker is set to my laptop basically. If I had a headset plugged into here instead of using a standalone microphone, I'd be able to select that from the drop down and use that for my speakers and also for my microphone. So just come in here and make sure that your settings are set up correctly. And then if you do have a webcam attached, or maybe you're using a laptop that has an inbuilt camera, this is where you can select the camera that you're using for your video call. So a few different device settings in there. Again, just here we have our microphone turned on, and then we can click on the Join Now button, which is going to jump us into the meeting. Now at this stage, I'm going to get the option to invite other people to the meeting. So I can either copy the meeting link and maybe put that into a Teams channel, or maybe add it to an email, or I can add participants directly. So let's add a participant. It's just going to ask me to confirm the language everyone is speaking. So we're going to keep that on. We'll keep it on English US. That's fine. Let's click on confirm. Now, when we're actually in the meeting, notice a couple of things. Because we turned on captions in the last lesson, you can now see those captions at the bottom just here. Also notice that we have a menu bar running across the top with lots of different options related to this Teams meeting. And because I selected to add participants, it's automatically popped open the people pane, the participants pane for me, and I can go in and I can add people to this meeting. So I'm just going to add Adele. I'm going to choose request to join. So it's now calling Adele, and there you go. She has now joined the meeting. So I can see here in this meeting 2 people, myself and Adele. And I can go through adding people in this way. Alternatively, I can type their name at the top here and invite them to participate. Now, the other things that we have up here, we have a chat panel. So this is very much like chatting in a Teams channel. We can utilize this to have conversations with our team members. This is particularly good because it's a non-audio way of having a conversation. It's particularly good if you're presenting something. It means people can have a conversation, have a little chat about what's going on the screen without interrupting the flow of the presentation and the speaker. Notice underneath here we have other options as well, similar to when we're posting a message. We can attach files, we can add emojis, GIFs and stickers. The next option along is to raise your hand. Notice the keyboard shortcut there, Control-Shift-K. So quite often you'll see this, if we go back to the people pane, this is what it will look like when somebody raises their hand. You can see I've just put mine up. And this is really a non-verbal indicator. So it allows the organizer or maybe the presenter of the meeting to know that somebody wishes to maybe ask a question or make a comment, but it doesn't interrupt the flow of the presentation. If I see a hand has been raised, I can then go in and maybe turn on their microphone if I have people unmuted, and then we can lower the hand once it's been dealt with. Now there's a couple of ways that you can lower hands. You can click on the raise button again, or you can press Control-Shift-K. So Control-Shift-K is kind of like a toggle to raise and lower your hand. The next one along is to react, so we can send a reaction. So again, if somebody is maybe presenting a PowerPoint presentation, if there's something that you particularly like, you could send a little heart, and it'll basically put hearts across the screen so that they know that that part is appreciated. So again, it's just a really nice non-verbal way of interacting. We can change our view, so we don't necessarily have to view things in this gallery format. We can view in speaker format, which is slightly different. And what you'll see here is if we had more people in this meeting, you would see the faces of all the participants in this area just here. If we go back to change your view, we also have together mode. And this is a really cool little mode, which I know some people weren't entirely sure about when it was first released. And it was actually released during the pandemic to give people more of a feeling of togetherness. So if people had their cameras turned on, we would see them kind of sitting here in different seats. As I said, some people love this mode, other people do not. Now I'm going to switch mine back to gallery view. We then have the More Actions button. So this is where we can come if we want to do things like record and transcribe the meeting. So quite often you'll want to record your meeting for review later, or maybe to send to people who can attend. This is where you're going to find the Start Recording button. As soon as we start recording, you'll see that indicated in the top corner. You just have to remember to stop the recording when the meeting has finished. We have a meeting info area just here. So this is going to give us all of the links to this meeting. So I could copy the join info and maybe paste that into an email and send it off to other people. Again, from here we can access background effects. We've already seen how this works. We can also customize our language and speech, so set the language that we're using from here, and then we have some more further settings. So we've already looked at device settings. We have meeting options and accessibility. Now we've already looked at device settings, but if we go into meeting options, we have a whole host of things that we can do here. So for example, at the top it says who can bypass the lobby, and I have this set to people in my organization and guests. So what do we mean by the lobby? Well, when people join a Teams meeting, you might want it so that when they join, they go straight into the meeting with the other participants, or you might want to hold everybody in what we call a lobby, and then when the organizer is ready, they can let everybody into the meeting in one go. Now, we can sort of have a halfway house option and set it just here. So maybe we want certain people to be able to bypass the lobby and go straight to the meeting, but other people to be held in the lobby. So this is where you can come to customize those options. So currently I'm basically letting everybody at my company bypass the lobby, trusted organizations and guests. I also have it toggled on to announce when people dialing in, join or leave. That's going to be an audio indication. I can do things like choose who can present things in this meeting. So currently that is set to everybody. But again, I could choose to break this down to just specific people or just people in my organization and guests. And you can see we have a few other toggle sliders down here that I would highly recommend that you take a look at and just adjust these as necessary to suit how you work. So meeting options, loads of information in there. Finally, at the top here, we have our little camera toggle, so you can switch between having your camera off or on throughout the meeting. It's not a case of you turn it on at the beginning and that's the way it has to stay. You can just toggle it using this icon. The same thing with your microphone. So with a lot of meetings, particularly if somebody's presenting information, it might be that you want to just go on mute whilst they're talking through things and come off mute when it's question time. So you can control your own microphone from up here. And then finally, we have the share option at the end, which we're going to dive into in a couple of lessons' time. The final button that we have in this meeting is the leave button. And if we click the drop down, we have two different options, leave or end meeting. So what is the difference between these two? Well, if we simply leave the meeting, it means that the meeting is still going to carry on with the other participants. Whereas when we end the meeting, it's going to end for everybody in the call. So I'm going to end meeting. I'm going to say yes, end the meeting for everybody. It's going to close the Teams meeting and it's going to take me back to the channel. And what you'll notice is whichever channel we started it in, you can see here it says team meeting has ended and the team meeting took 11 minutes and 53 seconds. I can say the call quality was excellent and send that through. And then what you'll find is that if you did select to record the meeting, that will be posted in the channel as well. So you can access the recording directly from within the channel. Now, I will say if it was a rather long meeting, you might have to wait a little while for that meeting to show in the channel, but it will get there eventually. We didn't turn on the recorder, hence why I don't have anything in here. But those are the basics of initiating an on-demand meeting using the Meet Now button. In the previous lesson, we saw how we can start an on-demand meeting using the Meet Now button. And in this lesson, we're going to take a look at scheduled meetings, and I'm going to show you how you can schedule a meeting from within Teams, but also from within Outlook in Microsoft 365. So let's start out by working within our Teams channel. Again, we're going to stick with the Project Bravo team general channel. We're going to go up to the Meet button in the corner, but instead of clicking on Meet, we're going to click the drop down and we're going to choose Schedule a Meeting. Now you'll notice that this pops open basically a calendar invite. So this is very similar to creating an event or an appointment in your Outlook calendar. We can add the title for the meeting. I'm just going to call it, let's just call it Catch Up, and then we can add the required attendees. So I'm going to invite the usual suspects. I'm going to invite Adele. Let's go for Alex. I'm going to invite Grady as well. Let's invite Pradeep and also Patty. Now, notice with this, something that can really help you when it comes to scheduling is to utilize the Scheduling Assistant tab just here. So if we click on Scheduling Assistant, it's basically going to show all of the attendees of the meeting. You can see them all listed just here, and it just helps you pick an available slot where everybody is free. So currently this meeting, I haven't set a start date or a start time, so the default here is the 28th, so today, 3:30 to 4 p.m. And if I want to check before I send this that everyone is available, I can go to the Scheduling Assistant and I can see, yes, everybody is free in their calendar. So that's a really great little tool to help you with your scheduling. So I'm going to keep this meeting scheduled for today, but we're going to do it for a bit later. Let's do it for 4:30. Who doesn't love a meeting from 4:30 to 5:30 on a Friday? We then get the option to choose if this repeats. So if this is a regular meeting, so maybe it's a weekly team meeting, you could choose to set this to repeat on certain days of the week. This is just going to be an ad hoc one, so we're just going to leave it on does not repeat. We can see the channel that this is posted in, so Project Bravo General, and we could add a location and a description. Now again, just to save a bit of time, I'm going to keep these as they are. Now notice on the right hand side we have a little options button just here. So once again I can come here to set up who can bypass the lobby. So I could set this so that everybody who's invited to this meeting can bypass the lobby. I can also choose to record this meeting automatically, and that can be really useful because I've lost track of the amount of times I've started a meeting and forgot to start the recorder. So set it up beforehand and then you don't have to worry about it. Notice we have more options. If I click this again, we can customize our settings further. So if you want people to have their microphones turned on when they enter the meeting, make sure you have this toggled on. If you want everybody to be on mute, you can toggle that off. So just check these before you send out the invite. You also have some options in here for registration. So if this is a meeting that you want people to register for, you could set that up from this require registration area. So I have mine set to none. You could set this for people in your organization and guests or for everybody. So it means they need to register, usually with their email address first of all. And this can be useful because particularly if it's going to be quite a large meeting, it's useful to know roughly how many people are going to be attending. So don't forget about that option there as well. So I'm pretty happy with this. Let's click on send to send that out. Now, immediately what you'll see is that this meeting gets posted in the Teams channel. So everybody who is a member of this channel can see that sitting just here. We have a catch up on Friday. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to post this in your team calendar. So if we go over to the left-hand menu again and click on calendar, you can see there is the meeting, the team catch up. Now, as you can imagine, we have a couple of ways that we can join this meeting when it begins. So if I click on the meeting in the calendar, I have a join button just here. Alternatively, if I'm working within the Teams channel, I can click on the meeting just here, and I have a join button in the top corner. Now, when we do reopen a meeting that we sent, you'll see that a few details have changed. For example, if we take a look at the Details tab, you can see that we now have access to some tracking information. So I can see in here who has accepted and who has rejected this meeting request. So currently I can see that Adele and Alex have accepted, and we don't have any replies from the other 3 as yet. What you'll also notice is that in the body of the email, we now have the meeting information. And this information contains links so that people can use these links to join the meeting. We also have some additional tabs at the top ready for when the meeting is completed. For example, we have an attendance tab, which currently doesn't have anything in it because the meeting isn't over. Once it is, we're going to see a list of all of the people who actually attended the meeting. We also have a meeting whiteboard tab and a Q&A tab. And we're going to take a look in more detail at these a bit later on. So very simple to schedule a meeting and then join that scheduled meeting. Now it's worth noting that we do also have options to join Teams meetings from within Outlook. So let's jump across to Outlook and take a look at them. So if we jump across to our calendar within Outlook, you can see that this also reflects that team meeting that's been added to the calendar. We have 4:30 p.m. catch up just here. If we double click to open this up, we have all of that meeting information. And I can join the meeting either by clicking on the link in the body of the message, or I can click Join Teams Meeting at the top. And the final thing that's worth noting is we can also create Teams meetings from within Outlook. So if I just go to Monday next week and double click to create a new event, I can create a Teams meeting or turn this into a Teams meeting by simply clicking on the Teams meeting button just here. So lots of different options there when it comes to scheduling meetings. Have a play around with them, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how we can share our screen and also files with other team members. So in order to do this, I'm going to start a quick ad hoc meeting by clicking the Meet button in this channel, and I'm going to call this Excel Training. I'm going to keep my camera turned off. Let's click on Join Now. And I'm going to say, yes, I do want to add some participants, and I'm happy with the language being in English. And I'm going to invite Adele again. So let's request that she joins. And there we go. Adele is now in the meeting. Now, once again, notice that we have captions at the bottom of the screen. And we can actually make some changes to these captions. We can click on Settings, we can go to Caption Settings, and we can make some changes. So I can change the color of my captions if I want to. I can even choose the height and the position of my captions. So I'm going to say, let's make this small, and I could put them at the top instead of at the bottom. I can even change the font size. So if you have people who are finding it difficult to read, you could make it larger, or you could make it smaller so it takes up less room. So quite a few different customizations that you can make just here. Now I'm actually going to put these back down to the bottom so they're less distracting. So just be aware you have your caption settings there. Now the other thing that we can do in here is we can share different things with our meeting participants. Notice we have a share button just here. There is a keyboard shortcut to open this of Control-Shift-E. Now when we click on share, there are a number of different things that we can share. And we're going to focus on sharing our screen, a window, or a tab first of all. So let's click on this, and it's basically going to pop open a little window that allows us to select a tab in Microsoft Edge, so a browser window, an actual window that could be a browser or it could be an application, or I can simply share my entire screen. So what is the difference between all of these, and what will people see? Well, Microsoft Edge tab, that's really just related to if you're using the Microsoft Edge browser. If you have a web page open specifically in Microsoft Edge, like I do just here, you could choose just to share that tab. If we choose Window, this is going to show us little thumbnails of everything that we have open on our desktop. So you can see that I have this Teams meeting, I've got File Explorer open, I have Asana, which is another application, and also my Outlook calendar. So if I was doing a demonstration in Outlook, for example, I could choose to share the Outlook window with my team members. And then the final option is the entire screen. So this will basically display whatever you're looking at currently on your desktop. Now the difference between choosing a window to share and choosing to share your entire screen is that when you share your entire screen, it means the participants in the meeting are going to see everything that occurs on your desktop. So if you have your Outlook showing, they will see all of your emails. If you have notifications coming in, everybody's going to see those as well. So some people don't necessarily like other people to see that type of thing, and so prefer to share just a window as opposed to the entire screen. If I was to share my Outlook window just here, so if I select it and click on share, it means it's basically locked to this window. So it doesn't matter if I have pop-ups coming up on my screen, it doesn't matter if I click around and open up other things, people are only going to ever see the application or the window that I chose to share. Everybody now is currently seeing my Outlook calendar. I could be clicking around on lots of different other things and they're not going to see me doing that. Now notice when you are in sharing mode, right at the bottom you have a hide button, so you can hide this little panel like so. And when I want to stop sharing, I can come back to this window and I can click on the stop sharing button. Now, one thing to note here whilst we're in this screen, check out what we have across the top. It says your status is set to do not disturb. You'll only get notifications for urgent messages from your priority contacts. So that's worth noting as well. If you look at my profile picture, you can see I have the little red icon over the top. So because I'm in a meeting and I'm presenting, Teams has set it to do not disturb, which will stop notifications coming in. When I want to stop sharing, I now have a stop sharing button. I can click this and it's going to take me back into the meeting and out of sharing mode. Now, the other thing we can share in here are files. Now, notice we have a section here for PowerPoint Live and Excel Live, and I'm going to talk more about those in the next lesson. But if I simply wanted to share a file with everybody, notice at the bottom here I have Browse OneDrive or Browse My Computer. So I can click on Browse My Computer and I can go through and choose a file to share. So maybe I want to share these sales records with everybody on the call. So this is going to open up Excel in the window. I'm going to say, yes, let's share. And now everybody can see the file that I've shared. So very, very simple. Notice it tells me at the bottom that I'm presenting. And at the top, I have a stop sharing link. So that is how simple it is to share a window, to share your entire screen, and also how to share any file that you have stored off in File Explorer. One of the newer updates to Teams recently has been the ability to work on and share PowerPoint and Excel files live with meeting participants. If we go across to the share button at the top here, notice we have two different sections, PowerPoint Live and Excel Live. So let's start with PowerPoint first of all. Maybe I want to share the financial pitch deck with all meeting participants. I just need to click it. It's going to go away and prepare the slides, and then it's going to load the presentation up into the window. Now notice, because I'm the presenter, I'm currently seeing the presenter view. So that means I get to see the presentation, I get to see all of the different PowerPoint slides underneath, and I also get to see any notes that I've added. So you can see here, I don't currently have any notes, but if I did have speaker's notes, maybe some reminders of what I need to speak about, I would see those in here as well. It's worth noting that anybody else in this meeting doesn't see this view. All they see are what is highlighted in red. So where we have this red box, you can see around the pitch deck, the first slide, that's what they're seeing, nothing else. Now, the cool thing about working in PowerPoint Live is that we have lots of different ways to collaborate with other meeting participants. Because when we share in this way, we're effectively co-authoring with other people in this meeting. So notice underneath I have things like annotation tools. So I could grab the pen here and I could start to draw things on this presentation. Now, Adele is seeing live any changes that I'm making, and if she wants to make her own changes to this presentation, she's going to have a take control button on her screen. So if she takes control, she's now effectively taking control over from me, and she can move through the slides, she can make annotations, things like that. She can then choose to stop presenting, or if I want to just take back control, I have a take control button on the toolbar just here, which passes control back to me. Now, a couple of other things that we have access to. We have a grid view, so that just allows us to display these slides in a slightly different way. We just need to double click on a slide to pull it back to the original view. And if we click on the three dots, we can choose to hide the presenter view, so we're just seeing exactly what our participants are seeing. We can view the slides in high contrast, or we can even translate the slides into different languages. Now, another thing that's really cool about this is that Adele doesn't have to move through the presentation at the same speed that I am. So if I'm talking through this slide just here, and Adele wants to maybe go back and read the previous slide, she can do that, and it doesn't affect what's being presented to everybody else. So everybody else is going to see the slide that I'm currently on, but she has control to move through the different slides and review them without it affecting anything. So that is another really cool part of PowerPoint Live. Let's stop sharing and take a look at Excel Live. So once again, if we go to the share button, we have Excel Live just here. I'm just going to share the product list. So this is going to load up the Excel spreadsheet and share it with all meeting participants. And this is really cool because this is pure co-authoring. You can see where I'm clicking around on this spreadsheet, but I can also at the same time see where other participants are clicked. So you can see here, there is Adele. She's currently clicked in cell D14. So I could come in here and I could type some numbers, but at the same time, Adele could be typing things into this spreadsheet as well, and I'm going to see it all update in real time. So this is the same as co-authoring documents in Microsoft 365. Once we've finished, we can click on Stop Sharing, and that is going to close that file down. So PowerPoint Live and Excel Live, two really great additions when it comes to collaborating on spreadsheets and presentations with other meeting participants. In the last lesson, we saw how we can share files and also share our desktop or an application when we're working in a Teams meeting. Now, if you recall, there was another option in there which we didn't explore in the last lesson, and that was sharing a whiteboard with all team participants. So what exactly is a whiteboard and how is it useful? Well, the first thing that you need to note is that the whiteboard is a separate application in Microsoft 365 in itself. So if we jump back to our Microsoft 365 homepage and click on the app launcher, notice at the bottom here of apps, we have Whiteboard. So let's click to open this up. Now what you'll immediately notice is that I already have a whiteboard that I created earlier sitting in here called Project Juliet Planning. So if we click on this to open it up and take a look at it, what you'll see is that a whiteboard is basically a blank canvas that really helps you brainstorm ideas and projects with colleagues and team members. We can create our own whiteboards from scratch, or we can utilize templates to give us a head start. So what I've actually done here is I've just used a template and I've filled in a couple of things. And notice at the bottom, we have this little toolbar which allows us to annotate and add other elements to this whiteboard. For example, you can see here that we can add little sticky notes. So if I select one of these and then click somewhere on the whiteboard, it's going to give me this sticky note style graphic, and I can stick this wherever I like and I can start typing in some notes. Also note that when we add text into here, we have a little floating formatting bar just above which will allow us to change the color of the note. We can delete the note, we can add comments, or we can do some further formatting of the text. We can add reactions. So if I click on the heart just here, you can see I have a few things. So maybe I want to click the check mark and I can just put that wherever I like on the whiteboard. We can add things like comments. So I can simply click, I can add my comment, much like I would if I was working in any Microsoft application. And you can see that comment is represented there by the little comment icon, and we can move that around and position it wherever we like. We can of course add text anywhere on our whiteboard, so I can simply click and start to type. And if this is a bit too small, we can use our formatting to make it a lot larger. We can of course add text boxes wherever we like on our whiteboard, so you can just click and then start typing. We can add shapes, so if I want to add a triangle over here, I can do that, and then of course we can drag the corners to resize it. So you can probably start to get the idea as to the kinds of things that we could build on here. We could make diagrams, we can make project plans, we can have a blank canvas and allow people to write notes and brainstorm different ideas. And if we click the three dots, we of course have more options. We have templates, images, documents, videos, and links. So again, these are all things that you can add into your whiteboard. And just as an example, you can see that I've added in a couple of links to this whiteboard. You can see I've got a link there to the website coolers.com, and then also a link here to the website pexels.com, which is a great website for free stock photography. So you can really build up your whiteboard however you want to build it. Once you're happy with it, you can rename your whiteboard by clicking at the top here and then just typing in a name for your board. I've just called mine Project Juliet Planning. So that's a look at an existing whiteboard. Obviously, if you want to create your own new whiteboard from here, you have the new whiteboard button, and you can start with an entirely blank canvas, or you can choose one of these templates just here. And you can see that they are all divided down into different categories. So if I check out this storyboarding template, let's preview it, see what it looks like. I think that's pretty nice. I can choose use this template, and then I can choose where I want to place it. And then of course I can move it around, I can resize it, and then I can start to customize it so it's suitable for my team. So let's just give this one a name. We'll just call this storyboard, like so. And of course, everything synchronizes. Now note here, when you're working within the Whiteboard app, we have three dots, which is going to give us access to more options. And just a couple of things we can do here. We can delete or we can rename. Another thing that's worth noting, if you are working within one of these whiteboards, we do also have a share button in the top corner, so you can then get the link to this whiteboard and you can share it with other people, and they can then jump in and start making changes to it. So how does this all relate to Microsoft Teams? Well, think about it this way. When you're in Microsoft Teams, you could choose to just create a new whiteboard when you're in the meeting. And that whiteboard will give your team participants a blank canvas where you can brainstorm ideas and everybody can dive in and co-author the document together. So I can make changes, my colleagues can make changes, and we'll see those updates on the whiteboard in real time. Alternatively, what you could do is what we've done here. Set up a whiteboard in advance of the meeting and then share that whiteboard with meeting participants. So that's pretty much what we're going to do here. Let's go back to Teams. I'm just going to click on the Meet Now button to start a meeting, and we'll just leave the default settings. Let's click on Join Now. I'm going to add participants, and let's add Adele. So now what I could do is share that whiteboard and work on it with Adele. So if we go to the Share button in the top corner, notice we have an option for Microsoft Whiteboard. Let's click on it. It's basically going to load the app and you will see all of those existing whiteboards. So if we're going to work on Project Juliet Planning, I can just simply click to share that and we can now work on it together. And notice at the top, you can see both myself and Adele are working within this whiteboard. And I can see here that Adele has actually just added some text here. This is so cool. So I could say, yes, it is. I could confirm that, and I can add a heart next to her comment. So this is a very rough way of working with the whiteboard, but hopefully it gives you an idea as to the kinds of things that you can do. Now, it might be that when you share a whiteboard with other meeting participants, you don't actually want other people to be able to edit the whiteboard. You can turn that setting off for individual whiteboards when you're in the meeting. If we click on the cog icon at the top, notice here other participants can edit. I've got it turned on, but you could just toggle this to off to stop editing other than yourself. Now, once we've finished working on the whiteboard, we can click on Stop Sharing, and that will save those changes back to the Whiteboard app. And don't forget, if you want to start a new whiteboard from scratch to brainstorm ideas, again, we just go back into Share and Microsoft Whiteboard, and instead of selecting one of the existing whiteboards that are there, you can simply click on the New Whiteboard button, and there we have a blank canvas. We're going to say Start with a blank, and we are ready to share our ideas. Breakout rooms are a great way for a meeting organizer to manage participants into different groups in a large meeting. For example, you might have 20 people on a call and the meeting organizer wants to send you off into groups of 4 to maybe work on a question that they've posed or have a group discussion. So imagine breakout rooms like having mini workshops going on in 4 different meeting rooms, and really does simulate the physical collaborative process. So let's take a look at how breakout rooms work. Now, something that is really important to know. So far in this course, we've been working using the Microsoft Teams web app accessible through the Microsoft 365 portal. And that's absolutely fine. You can do pretty much everything using the web app, but you cannot access breakout rooms. So you will need to switch across to the desktop version of Teams if this is a feature that you'd like to use. It's also worth noting that Breakout Rooms is one of the features that's only available in the business subscriptions of Microsoft 365. So I've switched across to the desktop application. Notice I now have this Rooms icon at the top. Now, currently there is just me in here. So let's open up participants and I'm going to invite Adele again. Now, as you've probably already worked out in this course, I'm basically managing both myself and Adele. Adele is a fake person, and I'm just logging into her account on a different device in order to simulate this for you. Now, I can't add any other people, which is going to make this a little bit difficult to demonstrate because normally for a breakout room, you want to have lots of people in your meeting, but you should be able to get the idea from just having 2 participants. So let's say that myself as the organizer, I wanted to create some breakout rooms. Let's click on the rooms option and you can see we get a pane on the right hand side. So now I get to choose the number of breakout rooms that I want to create. So you can see from this list, I can create up to 50 breakout rooms. Now, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that because that is going to be really hard for you to manage as the organizer. But if you have a few people on, you might want to create 2 or maybe 3 or 4 rooms. Now, because there's just 2 of us, I'm just going to create 2 rooms and I'm going to put each of us in a room. So let's say 2. I then get options for assigning participants to those breakout rooms, and we have 2 options just here. Now, if we leave it on automatically, Teams will do all of the assigning for you. So it will equally assign participants across those 2 rooms in a very random way. If you want a little bit more control and you want specific people to go into specific teams or specific people to work with other people, then you would choose manually underneath. So let's go with that. I'm going to say create rooms. So Teams is going to go away and you can see it's now created 2 rooms that are currently showing as closed and we have a 0 after them because we don't have any people assigned as yet. Now, notice that the only participant I have available to assign is Adele. Again, if you had more people in here, you would see all of their avatars across the top and you would go through and you would manually assign them to rooms. It's also worth noting underneath assigned participants, we have some icons. We can create new rooms on the fly. So if I then decide that maybe I want 3 rooms or 4 rooms, I can add one in just here. Make an announcement. This currently is grayed out. We are going to take a look at that at the moment, but that means that as the meeting organizer, you can essentially make an announcement to everybody in every single room. We can delete rooms and we also have some settings for our rooms as well. So I can do things like assign presenters to manage the rooms. I can set a time limit for people to be in those rooms. So for example, maybe I've given them all a 10-minute exercise to work on. I could set the time limit to 10 and then after 10 minutes, it will automatically close out those breakout rooms and bring everybody back to the main meeting. Now we're not going to do that, so let's turn that off. We're just going to go back. So let's click assign participants. Again, I just have Adele, so I'm going to select her and let's assign her to room 2. Now, obviously, if you have more in here, you would just go through and assign people using the same method. Let's click on save. So you can see now that we have 1 person in the second room. Now, once you've assigned everybody to rooms, and you can set this up before the meeting begins, so that when it comes time to do the exercise or whatever it is, you can simply go into rooms and click on open, and it will basically open those breakout rooms and assign everybody off into those separate rooms. So if I click on open, it's now opening room 2, and Adele has now disappeared from the main meeting window because she's now effectively off in her own room. And of course, those participants will just see all of the other people that have been assigned to that room and they can work on specific exercises. Now, as the meeting organizer, you can in fact join whatever room you like, so you can dip into rooms and dip out again. So maybe if people are struggling on an exercise in room 2, I could click on the 3 dots, I could say join room, and that's going to put me into the room as well. So you can see it's opened up another window, and I'm now in room 2 along with Adele, and I can help out with whatever's going on in here. So let's leave the room and leave her to it. Also notice here we can rename rooms. So maybe I want to call this Team B, and room 1 we're going to call Team A. Now, if as the meeting organizer you want to make a general announcement to everybody in all teams, this is where the make an announcement button comes in. So if I click on this, I could type something like, you have 1 minute to complete the exercise. And if I send that through, that's going to be posted to each room. And then once it's time to close the breakout rooms and bring everybody back to the main meeting, we can simply click on the close button to close them off. And we should find that in a moment, Adele is back in the main meeting. So that's the idea behind breakout rooms. As I said, this works better if you have more participants, but the key takeaway here is that you need to use the desktop version of Microsoft Teams in order to even see this breakout rooms option. Have a little play around with it. It is super fun, and I will see you in the next lesson. It's time now to complete exercise 5. And in this exercise, we're going to explore some of the skills that we've learned in this section of the course. And in this section, the focus has been on Microsoft Teams. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to create a team in Microsoft Teams based off of the existing Microsoft 365 group QA testing group. I'd like you to add 2 channels, issues and problems, and change management. So you should end up with a total of 3 channels for this particular team because a general channel is created by default. I'd then like you to practice posting and formatting messages in any channel. Next, I'd like you to download the file QA testing guidelines.docx from the exercise files folder. And I'd like you to practice attaching it to a post and sending it through to the team. Once you've done that, I want you to ensure that you can see the file in the Files tab in the channel. What I'd then like you to do is I'd like you to add the Excel workbook practice2.xlsx, and you should have this downloaded from a previous exercise. I'd like you to add this as a tab at the top of the change management channel so everybody can see that file. And I'd like you to name the tab Financials. Once you've done that, I'd like you to start an on-demand meeting from the change management channel. Once you're in the meeting, you can invite people if you want to, but I'd like you to present the pitchdeck.ppt file, which you'll find in the exercise files folder. So make sure you've downloaded that prior to attempting to share it. And I'd like you to present this file in the meeting using PowerPoint Live. And just make sure that you're familiar with the different annotation tools when you're presenting. Finally, I'd like you to practice creating a whiteboard in a meeting and using the annotation tools. That's it for this exercise. If you'd like to see my answer, then please keep watching. So the first thing I asked you to do was to create a team in Microsoft Teams based off of the Microsoft 365 group, QA testing group. So we're going to go to the link at the bottom, join or create a team. We're going to say create team, and we're going to create it from an existing group or team. So we want to utilize our Microsoft 365 group, and there it is at the bottom, QA testing group. Let's click on create. So it's gone away, it's created the team, and I can see it down there at the bottom. Now currently we have 1 default channel that is general. The next part of the exercise was to create 2 more channels for this team. So we're going to click the 3 dots, we're going to say add channel, and this one is going to be called issues and problems. Let's click on add. We're going to add another channel, and this one is going to be called change management, and click on add. And then all I wanted you to do was really just practice posting and formatting messages in any of these channels. So let's select change management. I'm going to create a new conversation. I'm going to type a little message. Let's open up the formatting bar and let's make this look a little bit more interesting. We're going to have a title in there. Let's select our text. Let's make it large. I'm going to change the color. Let's make it red. And we're also going to add a little emoji at the end there. Let's send that through. The next thing I asked you to do was to download the file QA-testing-guidelines.docx from the exercise files folder and attach it to a post and send it through. So once again, let's start a new conversation. This time we're going to attach a file. Let's upload from computer. There is the file just there, QA testing document. Let's click on open. And then we can click to send that through. So now that we've sent this through to the channel, I just wanted you to make sure that you can access this from the Files tab at the top, just to check that you remember where you can go if you're specifically looking for files that have been shared. So we're going to go up to our tabs at the top, click on Files, and we should find that our document is sitting in there, which it is. The next thing I asked you to do is add the Excel workbook practice2.xlsx as a tab at the top of the change management channel. So let's click the plus at the top here. And because this is an Excel file, we need to search for Excel. There it is. Let's select the app. And now we can choose the file that we want to share in the tab. So I'm going to go to My Files and Training Files. There is practice2.xlsx. This is the one that I want to add. Let's click on Save. So there is the worksheet in the tab, and then I asked you to rename the tab to Financials. So let's right click, choose Rename, and type Financials and click on Save. The next thing I asked you to do was to start an on-demand meeting from the Change Management channel. So we're in the Change Management channel. Let's click on the Meet button in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to keep my camera turned off. Of course, you could have yours turned on. Let's just select Join Now. Now, at this stage, you could add participants, but this is entirely optional. The next thing I asked you to do is download the PowerPoint presentation pitchdeck.ppt from the exercise files folder and then present that using PowerPoint Live. So now all we need to do is click the share button. If you can't see the presentation underneath the PowerPoint Live section, you can browse OneDrive or browse My Computer. So just navigate to the folder where you've downloaded this file from. It might be your downloads folder. For me, it's exercise 5 folder. Let's select it and click on open. And I'm now sharing that presentation. And whilst you were in here, I just wanted you to have a bit of a click around and just make yourself familiar with some of the annotation tools that we have, some of the different views that we can view our presentation in. And if you are on this call with other people, you could even practice passing control backwards and forwards. I kind of left this up to you, but it's just a good way to practice sharing presentations. Let's click on Stop Sharing. The final thing I asked you to do was just to practice sharing something else, and that something else was a whiteboard. So once again, we're going to click on Share. We're going to go to Microsoft Whiteboard, and we're not going to use an existing whiteboard. We're going to create a new whiteboard, and we're going to start with a blank canvas. And I just really wanted you to practice building your own whiteboards and accessing some of these different things. So adding things like notes, maybe adding text into your whiteboard, adding things like reactions, images, shapes, documents, videos, links. So make sure you are fully comfortable with how the whiteboard works, where it gets saved, and how you can share the whiteboard and access it after the meeting is finished.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To get the course exercise files and follow along with this video, click over there. And click over there to watch more videos on YouTube from Simon Says It.